Rise up!
This is the Rise Up See Red podcast, all about the Arizona Cardinals and the NFL, featuring insider and outsider perspectives. Enjoy the best hour of Cardinals talk on the web. Now here are your hosts, Jess Root and Seth Cox.
Hello, Arizona Cardinals fans, and welcome to the latest edition of the Rise Up Series podcast, Bizarre Cardinals Talk on the Web. I'm your host, Jess Root from CardsWire.com, USA Today's NFL Wire site that covers, of course, your Arizona Cardinals in the final of our NFL draft preview series in terms of positions, episode 774. Seth Cox, my co-host from RevengeOfTheBirds.com, SB Nation's Arizona Cardinals site, joins me as we talk about the safeties, a position that is not one that is, it's not a priority position right now because the Cardinals, they've got Budda Baker, they've got Rabbit, they signed Andrew Wingard, and then they've got depth guys after that, Joey Blunt and things like that, and Keaton Crawford from last year. Nonetheless, it's still a position that you will see people go. And so let's kind of talk about the safeties in this class. And there is a safety that's worth perhaps the top 5 pick that the Cardinals had at number 3. And it is an Ohio State player. So you always go, will the Cardinals pull the trigger? Caleb Downs, is he by far the best safety, best safety prospect of this draft?
I mean, I think so. I think he might be one of the best 3 players in this draft. I love the kid. I love his abilities. I love what he brings to the table. And I love the pedigree, Jess. You mentioned it, obviously out of Ohio State. This is the craziest thing, Jess. 2023, he's a second team AP All-American as a freshman at Alabama. And then, by the way, he led Alabama in tackles as a freshman. The first freshman in Alabama history to lead the team. Think about that, Jess. We're talking about Alabama. We're not talking, and I'm not trying to be rude, we're not talking about Arizona State. We're talking about USA. We're not talking about all the time. And this kid came in and was just the best of the best. And then he goes, I'm going to Ohio State, and then all it become a first team All-American, Big Ten defensive back of the year, first team All Big Ten, finalist for the Thorpe Award, Bronco Nagurski Award, and Lot Impact Trophy, tied, for the team in interceptions, and had 6 pickups, had 8 lost. While starting all 16 games for the national champions. And then you look at it this year, do you follow that up? What can you do? I'll be the Big Ten Conference Defensive Player of the Year, first team American again, everything possible for wherever he's at, and been the best at it is, he is just a special, unique prospect. And in a class that lacks, that high-end talent, he's a guy that can come in and give you that. Draft a safety in the top 5 when you don't need a safety. That's what the question becomes, and why, the reality of it is he won't be the pick, but he's a special, unique, and I already know in 3 years if David Bailey or Francis, the conversation is going to be fun listening to. They could have had Caleb Downs, but so from there it's for 2 kind of consensus. Number 2 with the bullet, Dylan Finneman out of Oregon. A little bit different of a player, right, than Downs. Downs is kind of your traditional do it all safety, can play in the box, can play single high, can do a little bit of everything. Finneman came from Purdue as a third-team All-American at Purdue. 6 foot, 201 pounds, ran a 4.35, had a 41-inch vert, 10.5-inch broad. Again, third-team All-American. 6 INTs, 2 pass breakups as a freshman, stayed at Purdue, had, a good year, 7 pass breakups, and then was like, I'm going bigger, and went to Oregon this year. Second team All-American, first team All Big Ten, started all 15 games. And he's a guy that can play, a little bit of everything. To me, about either player, but I think he's like has the potential to be a better version of Jalen Thompson, right? Like, I think his floor is Jalen Thompson, who was a 5th round comp pick, but I think his like upside is like a souped up version of Jalen Thompson. And guys like that, like Javon Holland and those type of players with that similar build and physique and playmaking abilities, right? Those guys, all pros. And then you've got the kind of freaky outlier, right? You've got Emmanuel McNeil Warren out of Toledo, 6'3.5", 201 pounds, but not quite as athletic. The bigger safety, 4.52, 40, 35.5-inch vert, 10.2 broad. But he is like a poor version. And again, that sounds terrible when you say it that way, but like a kind of a poor man's version of Kyle Hamilton, right? Like, has the ability to do a little bit of everything, but holy cow, he is a downhill. He's going to help in the run game. He has good coverage instincts, and his size, length, and athleticism kind of give him the ability to make up for some probably a little over aggressive playing.
Is he a discount Nick Emanwari kind of?
Yeah, similar to that, right? Like, I think that's a great look at it. The thing is with him is he's not quite as big, but he has the frame to add size at 6'3.5" and only 201. So like, and this is no shot at Toledo, but like, get him in a Penn State, get him in an Ohio State, right, program, and he's probably 6'3.5", 215 right now, and then gets up to 225 in the NFL, whereas he'll have to get up to 225 in the NFL on his own. And so that, he doesn't have that stop in between, but he's another guy that could find his way into the back end of round 1. And then what's really interesting from there is it's a day 2 bonanza of guys that you could probably get in round 3.
So yeah, coming up next on the Rest of Your podcast, Mr. Cardinals Talk on the Way. Let's talk about those day 2 guys. Probably not round 2, but there's a whole bunch that are right around the 65th pick. That's coming up next on Rise Up See Red. We're back on the Rise of Sierra podcast, Mr. Cardinals Talk. We'll talk about the safeties of the 2026 NFL draft class, and moving on to day 2. In terms of the consensus board, there's a big drop from McNeil Norm, who's at number 23, all the way down to 57 at A.J. Halsey. But between 57 and 95, there are 6 players at safety, and since we talked about on the cornerback show, Traden Stukes, the kid out of U of A, you might include him because some see him as a cornerback, some see him as a safety. He would fall into this category as well.
Yeah, and you started out with Halsey. You mentioned him. Throwback, man. I think about, talking about McNeil Warren, 6'3.5", 201 pounds. And I said, if he's in a Big Ten SEC program, he's probably 215. Halsey's 6 foot 215 already. This is a bruising downhill safety that is an insane ball hawk for the way he plays the game. Started out in New Mexico, and you guys know how I am about this. I love this. Started out in New Mexico, 2 INTs, 3 pass breakups, had a registered, and again, these are always a little, iffy, but had a registered 24 tackles as a freshman in one game against Fresno State. So just like that gives you the mentality of the kid, right? Then transferred to Houston, led the team with 98 tackles, started in all 12 games. Stayed at Houston in 2024, first team all Big 12, tied for 4th in all of college football with 5 INTs and had 8 pass breakups. Again, I don't think people realize how insane that is from the safety position. 12 games, you got your hands on the ball 13 times. That is genuinely nuts to see from a safety. And then moved to LSU. Now, some will say, Houston LSU is a downgrade this year. You're probably accurate. Okay. But in the scope of the hierarchy of college football, going from Houston to LSU is looked at as a positive. Had 3 INTs, 4 pass breakups this year. First team all SEC. Like, this is a dude that's literally looking to murder you in the field. But the thing that gets him, like, the thing that makes you love him is that he makes plays that you just don't expect, because he is such a bullet. And then you see him make those plays and you go, holy crap. Another Cardinal kind of throwback, Rashad Johnson, right? Like, Rashad played that kind of center field role, but remember just how aggressive and how much he would come down and make plays. Like, that's Halsey is, kind of that guy. From there, another big kind of drop, and I don't want to overstate how the drop is, but like, we're talking now guys that are probably going to go after the Cardinals pick in the 3rd round. And again, it's kind of what's your flavor, right? Jalen Kilgore is a safety out of South Carolina. Kilgore came in at a little over 6'2", over 6'1", 210 pounds, has really long arms though for the position. Tested really well, 4.4 40, 37-inch vert, 10-10 broad. Freshman All-American at South Carolina, 6 pass breakups and an INT. And then 2024, he had 5 interceptions, 5 pass breakups in 11 starts, and then this year 10 pass breakups and 2 interceptions and 11 starts. So again, a guy that really kind of fits that ball hawking safety that can run and play with slot guys at a really high pace. I'm torn on Kilgore, man, because he's a guy, his coverage and ball skills. So like, he's not the free type like what Halsey is, right? He's more of a guy that you can play down, kind of like McNeil Warren, and have him be like a Kyle Hamilton and help against the run and do that type of stuff. Yeah, he's a really interesting fit in what the Cardinals want to do, because he would kind of give them a defender that they don't have. You mentioned like a Nick Emanawari, but at a much discounted rate, right? Bud Clark is another one, but he's another safety, but he's, kind of the opposite end of that spectrum. 6'1", only 188 pounds, really good measurables at the combine. And you look at it, he did a really nice job throughout his career. And, 3 INTs, 6 pass breakups in 2023, 3 3 INTs, 3 pass breakups in 2024, and then 4 INTs, 7 pass breakups in 11 games in 2025. He's going to be one of the older guys, though. I got to double check. Yeah, he'll be over 24 when the season starts, so a little bit older. A good coverage guy, but really interesting to see where he fits because he lacks kind of the size that teams want now at only 188 pounds, which is weird to say, right? But he's a guy that you wonder where he fits in. And like probably not with the Cardinals. From there, we mentioned Stukes the other day, but we should probably mention the other guy, right? Genesis Smith, local product out of Hamilton High School, and then went to U of A. I think Genesis started out at Kansas State. I want to like triple check, or was he always at U of A? Don't remember off the top of my head, but didn't test everything, but came in at 6'2", 202, 42 and a half inch vert. Sorry, 10.8 broad, a really good shuttle at 4.18. Had 3 INTs and 6 PBUs last year, and then was really, really good this year. INT, 8 PBUs. But the question becomes, can he clean up the tackling? And that's where it's going to be interesting if he goes late day 2 or if he falls to the 3rd round, because he's kind of the break point for day 3 guys. There's a couple guys I didn't mention: Kamari Ramsey, Zachy Wheatley, and that could also go on day 3. But I wanted to kind of end with Smith because he is a local kid. The interesting thing about Smith is he is really, really strong as a single high safety. So like he gives you this borderline elite coverage ability. But his struggles in tackling and then his like missed tackle numbers are staggering, where you don't really want him near the box at all. And it was part of the reason his role changed so much at U of A from 2024 to 2025. And 2024, he played over 350 snaps in the slot and only 218 deep. So as you know, a more traditional safety, 10 to 12 yards off the ball. This year, Jess, only 92 snaps in the slot, 451 deep. His coverage ability is unquestionable. He is, again, borderline elite in coverage, but he has been such a liability, especially for a player of his size and athleticism at 6'2", 202 in tackling, that you wonder where he fits, because you cannot even be a guy that gets drafted to play specials if you're not a great tackler. And so that's where I wonder for Genesis, a guy that I really like. I've met his dad. I've played against his brothers. He's an incredibly talented family, great kid. I just, you look at the game and what he's done, and that's the question that comes up, and those are the questions he's going to have to answer. So is that a guy, is that elite coverage so outweigh the concerns as a tackler that you're willing to take him late on day 2? Or is he a guy that if you get him in the 5th or 6th round, you're taking a flyer on a guy with insane coverage abilities and athleticism, but if he doesn't get the tackling right, you're okay because it was a risk you were willing to take?
Coming up next on the Res of Sierra podcast, Bizarre Cardinals Talk on the Way. Let's talk about a few day 3 guys to know. That's coming next on Res of Sierra. We're back on the Res of Sierra podcast, Bizarre Cardinals Talk on the Web. Moving on to day 3 guys. These are guys that are going to be high high ball production. They've got extreme size. They're athletic freaks, or they're great on special teams. Who are some guys to know late in the draft? Because it seems after Dennis Smith, there's a precipitous drop. Like we're talking basically round 5. You got end of round 3, and then the consensus is basically okay, round 5 after that.
Well, and I think it's because they all have flaws in their game so much, right? We mentioned Genesis and his tackling concerns. You go to a Deshaun Singleton, and Jess, if I told you a guy was 6'3", 205 pounds with a 40-inch vert and an almost 11-foot broad that, played 4 years in the Big Ten and was a very good special teams player, you'd be like, okay, what are we doing? Well, on the other side of Genesis is a guy like Deshaun Singleton. He's only a big nickel. He's who was the kid the Cardinals draft, or not that they drafted, but like they had as a special teams guy a couple of years ago, and he was a linebacker. But that's kind of who this kid reminds me of. I can't remember off the top of my head, but it's crazy to see a guy like this who is athletic, but like Zeke Turner. Thank you. Reminds me of Zeke Turner. Like probably will get into the like mid to high 220s, low 230s, and be a special teams ace forever. Like a guy that is in the league for a decade because of that. Guys are going to absolutely take a shot on him because 6'3", 205 with that athleticism just doesn't come around very often, right? So if you miss, you're with it. Another freak athlete and that's going to get drafted, that's going to play for a long time, is a guy that's, the brother of one of the best players in the draft, Lorenzo Styles, former Ohio State safety, 6 foot, 194 pounds. He ran a 4.27. That's really fast. I don't know if you know that. But you look at it, man, he started out at Notre Dame as a wide receiver and was a reserve wide receiver and then switched to corner, played in every game as a reserve, and then played in 12 games, 11 starts. And then Lorenzo Styles, his dad was a, linebacker and Super Bowl winner with the Rams. The fact that he made the transition and did so well, he's going to get drafted. He is an insane cover guy on specials, and the athleticism and the willingness to put his nose in and hit people makes him a guy that's going to, like, people are going to be like, yeah, I want him. Robert Spears Jennings is another safety. We mentioned Stukes, right? Like 4.33 at his size, and he's a guy that could potentially play. He's out of Oklahoma, 6'2", 205, ran a 4.3, 240. His jumps for being that fast it was surprising. 35-inch vert, 10.5 broad. He's a guy that, again, if he can add a little weight, you see a guy that could potentially be one of those kind of overhang defenders that have become so popular in the NFL. He is in a liability in coverage, and it shows. You talk about a guy that in 11 starts in 2024 had an interception and pass breakup, and then in 12 starts in 2025 he had an interception and 2 pass breakups. It's just not his game. He's not good in coverage. He struggles to do that, but he is another guy that, like, literally you're like, if you get him in round 6, around 7, you're like, all right, I got a special teamer for the next 5 years, 4 years, however long my contract is with him, because he will be a special teams ace at worst. And again, that's what they're looking for when they do this, right? VJ Payne out of Kansas State's another guy. Again, what do you always say when you start talking about safeties on day 3? You're either an elite athlete or elite size. Well, these guys are all or both 6'3", 206, ran a 4.4 40, Jess. Like, these guys are just absurdly athletic. But again, not great in coverage, good enough. And he has the athleticism to move and help out in coverage more than other guys do. And I think that's why, out of like the guys we've talked about outside of Genesis, he's one of the guys that could go higher on day 3, because he gives you that decent coverage ability. It's not like he was a big time production guy like Halsey or Genesis, but like, 5 or 2 INTs, 3 pass breakups last year, an INT, 3 pass breakups this year. So he does a little bit better, and he's played a ton of football, 42 starts. We'll see where he fits in this draft. And the last guy that I want to talk about, because I just feel like they produce solid pros from the position, and that's Xavier Nwankpa. I probably butchered that last name. I apologize. Out of Iowa, 6'2.5", 208 pounds, 4.48 40, 37.5-inch vert. He's a guy that will, again, be really, really sound as a special teams player, but you wonder if an NFL team with his size, athleticism, will be able to get a little more out of him. But the size and athleticism, and the fact that he is already like well regarded in the community as being an standout special teams player, he will get drafted. The question just is where he fits in, because again, you're talking about a guy that hasn't produced the way the size and athleticism you would hope that he would.
And that pretty much takes care of it. Seth, we made it through it. We're not talking about specialists, so we're not going to go that much into the weeds, but we've now covered all the position groups. You can catch our previous shows that we've had about every single position. We've still got a couple of shows left before the draft. Next week, we'll have our mock draft of the first round, and I'm sure there'll be stuff. We'll talk kind of about ideal settings, possessions. We'll have one more show this week, but that'll wrap this up. Listen to everything that we've got. We've got 10 shows before. We've got a whole bunch of shows before and more. But until then, that's Seth Cox. I'm Jess Root. Thanks for listening as always. We'll be back again soon.
Thanks for listening to the latest edition of the Rise Up, See Red podcast. Listen to previous episodes and subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher Radio, Audioboom, or many other podcast platforms so shows are delivered directly to your mobile device. Please give the show a 5-star rating and always support the sponsors who support the show. We'll be back soon for the best hour of Cardinals talk on the web. Rise up, Red Sea, be red, see red, and of course, rise up, see red.